that.
Go for it, pal. Let's kick it off. Let's go.
Let's go. Good evening. Welcome back. Another John Sinclair TV back again. I do apologise as well. Having problems with technical issues here. Now we're back. And I've got Steve with here joining us. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hi, mate. I'm great. How are you?
Much better now. Now it's on YouTube's tit, which is fantastic. Finally. So, guys, like the video, like what you watch. Make sure you smash the likes, hit the subscribe button as well, please. And also, super chats are open. And if you'd like to become a member, it's 99p. It's in there. So, Steve, breaking news: Liveamento has joined us. Well, he will join us having a medical first, and he's a good signing. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. Newcastle have done it again, haven't they? They've been persistent, and they've made sure that they took their time and they got their man. For me personally, I'm delighted to see Liveamento come to Newcastle United.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to cost up to 40 million quid with add-ons as well. And Southampton always wanted that kind of money. We put a low-ball offer in, didn't we, for 15 million quid, 20 million quid, and then Southampton won't have none of it because they have to pay some money back to Chelsea as well. So, look, I think Southampton's got good money for them. And, yeah, why not?
I think you've got to realise when a team gets relegated that, maybe a player is not going to be, as valuable as you probably think he is. And we don't ever really know the exact amount of transfer fees that are paid over for any player. They'll put this out, they'll put that out, but in the grand scheme of things, the only people who really do know are the people at the football clubs and the player and the representatives. I've seen everything from 40 million to 35 million to 32 million to 30 million plus add-ons reported across loads of different spectrums, loads of different reporters. I think if it's 30 million plus add-ons or 32 million plus add-ons, I think Newcastle have got a real bargain there. Liveamento is a young player. He's somebody who anyhow can coach and get the best out of. Yes, he's coming back from an ACL. But I think ultimately for me, ACLs 25 years ago were a very, very serious injury. Career threatening, you would say. But I think now, the technology, the medicine, the surgeons that we have, I think that an ACL is not as bad as it was 25 years ago. So he will have recovered from that. We've got a medical, of course, which he has to go through, whether that's happening today or tomorrow. Yeah. But ultimately, the medical will eke out any problems or highlight any problems that there may or may not be, and then he will fit in with the Eddie Howe squad. It's a massive addition because it's a defensive addition, and I think we all feel that is one area of the pitch where sooner rather than later, we will need to extend our squad, purely because of the age of them. Fabian, Schär and Trippier, both in their 30s. Dan Burn, 30s. So we do know that particular part of our team at some point will need an upgrade. It doesn't need an upgrade at the minute. Can I just remind everybody, Newcastle had one of the best defences in the league last season. It hasn't become a bad defence overnight. Just because we're being caught short a couple of times for pace in pre-season friendlies. That's what pre-season friendlies are for. Newcastle United have got a fantastic back four, a world-class goalkeeper, and now they've just added a young, up-and-coming player to that back four. It's another good day for Newcastle United, John.
100%. I mean, you got to trust the process. You got to trust Dan Ashworth. You got to trust Eddie Howe. They know exactly what they do, because at the end of the day, I know fans are saying, "Oh, we're not going to get any more." But listen, at the end of the day, I think they're doing a fantastic job, and you just got to be patient with these guys.
Yeah, of course you have. I mean, it's something that we coined on NUFC Matters. Trust the process. Stu Penman came on our show a couple of months back, and he, when the transfer window opened, and he more or less said, just trust the process, and that's what you've got to do, John. That's what you've got to do. I mean, we asked Barry Hogan, who comes on the fans forum, to write down and compile a list, a spreadsheet of players that Newcastle have been linked with this summer. Just really for my interest, how many individual players we have been linked with this summer. And at the moment, up until last Friday, we have been linked with 204 players since June the 6th, John. That's
But, yeah.
that's quite a considerable amount of players when you bear in mind that we've only signed those three main ones. Of course, we've signed Yankuba Minte as well, and a whole host of other young'uns. But we've only really signed Harvey Barnes, Tonali, and Liveamento today, who will be in and around the first team squad. So I think it just shows you, that the transfer window is exciting, it's fun. It's a lot better than waiting for Hamza Chowdhury, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're not quite used to it, Steve, at all.
We're not, John. We're not. We're definitely not. But
not
it's
used to it. Yeah.
Just got to enjoy it, mate.
Absolutely. I mean, just a quick stat on Timo as well. 28 appearances in the Premier League last 2 seasons ago. Only a couple last season because of the ACL. I mean, like you said, when he comes back fitter, we're going to see the real Timo as well. I've got high hopes of this guy. He's a young player. We believe in a youth project, Steve.
Yeah, look, Newcastle United's smartest acquisition in recent years was Dan Ashworth. We know what Dan Ashworth did with England. We know what Dan Ashworth did with Brighton, and his remit really is to build the academy, but also to do well with the first team. He's got to bring in players that Eddie Howe wants. He's got to get the right deal for the club and the right personnel for Eddie Howe. That relationship is key, and bringing in young players is all part and parcel of it. And that for me, to see this week Yankuba Minte being praised again, it shows we bought wisely with him. It was somebody we tried to get the year before.
Yeah.
We brought him in this year. He's on loan at Feyenoord. He's going to get some great experience out there. He's already scored a goal, albeit a penalty, but he's getting an opportunity in the first team. That can only be massively beneficial to us. We've allowed, although it's yet to be announced, we know we've let Ashby out on loan. I think most people believe that he's at Swansea. Photograph doing the rounds yesterday of a tattoo on someone's arm, which is exactly the same. Great bit of detective work by whoever that was. But ultimately, if Ashby's gone on loan to Swansea, he'll get game time there. And, for me, that's what you do. You bring in the best youngsters, you compete for the best youngsters, you put them out on loan. If they sink or swim, then you haven't lost a fortune. But if they swim, you potentially got the future sorted out at Newcastle without even spending much money. But it's the right philosophy, and you'll buy some good players and you'll buy some average players. You won't buy bad players, and that's the key with recruitment of youngsters. But we're doing so well with it, John. And like you just said, it's just great because it's such a different world we live in now. As a Newcastle fan, I find it very difficult to get angry about anything to do with the football side of things, because that's not my job. It's their job, and at the moment we've just got to a cup final. We lost it. Had it been a different weekend, I'm convinced we would have won it. But we've just qualified for the Champions League, John. There's nothing to be upset about on the football side of things.
Not at all. Not at all. We're just loving life, Steve. We're just loving life as well. Go to some comments as well. Click and comment in, please. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button as well, please. It'll help me channel to grow. Hi to Doug. How's keep his card close to his chest? And how was clever? That's from Jay. Hi, Jay. And Bastiat, hi to you, mate. Can I say, unfortunately, like the channel, John, I'll read it, lads. Thank you so much indeed, Bastiat. And thank you very much indeed for that one as well. And Doug as well. And Steve, all these youngsters being brought in bodes well for the future. 100%, Doug, 100% as well. I want to quickly talk about Elliot Anderson as well. I mean, obviously, you spoke about him for those who missed him. I think this guy would definitely be getting games this season. He's stronger, he's fitter, he's quick, and this guy just gets better and better.
Yeah, Elliot Anderson. I think that shows another side of Eddie Howe's management. He brought him into the first team squad. He allowed him to integrate with the players. He gave him a brief taste of first team, life and appearances. And from his perspective, he grasped it with both hands. He was unlucky with a disallowed goal, which we were all gutted about. Never mind him. And from our perspective, it's you don't want to pile the pressure on a youngster like that. The Geordie Maradona is his nickname, and you're thinking, is he gonna be able to cope with that kind of pressure? But this pre-season, he has been the stand-out player. He's been very like Miggy was last year. Yeah. And for me, he's played himself into contention for the game against Aston Villa. It's going to be such a difficult choice for Eddie Howe because he's strengthened in the midfield in the summer window, not once but twice. He's brought in Harvey Barnes, he's brought in Tonali. We had a wonderful midfield last season with, Bruno, Joe Linton, Sean Longstaff, all dovetailing nicely. We had Miggy banging the goals in. ASM wasn't really delivering prior to his injury. And when he came back, lack of assists, lack of goals, probably the one who underperformed because we know he could do it in the black and white shirt. We'd seen him do it. Anthony Gordon brought in, some people say at an inflated price, but then he goes on to have a wonderful summer for England's 21s and does very well and wins the Euros. So there's a lot of competition in that midfield section, but that tells you, I think, how well Elliot Anderson has done in the summer, because I genuinely think he's got a chance of starting against Aston Villa. I did a talk-in with Rob Lee this week, and one of the best, if not the best midfielder that I have ever seen at Newcastle. Peter Beardsley I always class as a forward, who's my favourite player. But Rob Lee said, it's such a long time since we had a box-to-box midfielder who can score goals. And he wasn't referring to himself, but I had to go back to his era and Gary Speed's era to remember somebody who consistently, and that's the key word, consistently scored goals from midfield. And Elliot Anderson looks like he's added that to his repertoire. Now, it's one thing doing it in friendlies against Gateshead and against teams in a super series in America. I think Eddie Howe's got faith in him to go out and do that in the Premier League. And I think he will do that in the Premier League. So for me, I think Elliot Anderson will start. It then goes down to what Eddie Howe's going to do with those acquisitions. Because the 3 new players he's bought, Liveamento, he's come in too late to feature in the Villa game. No doubt about that. But Tonali and Harvey Barnes in the midfield both had a pre-season. Tonali's had a full pre-season, more or less, compared to Barnes. Barnes came in a little bit later, but he looks fully fit and ready to go. From, the sooner he gets the nod, he's going to be okay. Great. So it's whether Howe goes back down that route of saying, right, newbies start on the bench, we go with what we had last season. If that's the case, he makes it easy for himself. He may not play Longstaff. Longstaff's going to be fit for the Salah Cup. He's back in contention for this weekend. But he may well go with Anderson, Joe Linton, and Bruno in that 3. And then on the left and right, he may play Gordon and Miggy. That, for me, probably would be the start in midfield. But Elliot Anderson, mate, he's done so well. And what is more exciting is we've now got Lewis Miley breaking through, who's another youngster, is another youngster who potentially could grab the opportunity. So suddenly, youth is looking exciting again, John. And that's what you wanted. You know what I mean? And there's a long way to go. They need to link up with Wallsend Boys Club, Red Youth Boys, and all the other boys clubs in the North East. Link up with them. And I'm pretty confident on the football side that we're going to get a lot of things right, John.
Absolutely. I could not have said any better than that, my guy. Honestly, you're spot on there. It's been written by Newcastle United this season. That's a RDS. I hope you're correct. Jules, kind of to you, Steve. Huge welcome, Steve. I started watching Newcastle NUFC Matters in lockdown. Really enjoyed all the shows, more so the friendships made, especially Steve, who I'm proud to say is a good friend. Always has time for Steve.
Great to see you, Jules. You and your good man. You've become good friends. I've made so many good friends through the podcast. I know John has as well. It's always great to see you when you're in Newcastle. But thanks for all your help in the mods stakes as well. But thanks for your friendship even more.
Absolutely kind words, both of you. And hi to Paul, hope you're okay. Top man, I did ask for you back in the 4 horses, dear. Yeah, I think I remember that, Paul. I remember that. Absolutely, man. And hope you're fine, long time no see. Just chatting to Jules. Even if he's singing and dad jokes are a bit Justin Jules. Hi to Benny Benny. No, Jules is brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant as well. And midfield of the guys that finished last season is my prediction. Bruno G, Longstaff and Joe Linton for Villa, Tonali, Miley Anderson with Willock to come. Amazing depth we have in midfield now. We talked about it, Steve. We've got massive depth, strength and depth in the midfield.
Yeah, we have. I mean, that is probably the second best midfield only to Manchester City, I think, this season. Liverpool have always had in recent years had a good midfield. They're having a rebuild now. You know, they've lost two key players in Henderson and James Milner. You know, they've rebuilt. But Newcastle's midfield is superb. That back four is superb. Well drilled, well organised. And if we can keep the fitness of Wilson and Isak, we've got two great strikers. Newcastle could be a big surprise again this season. The European football is the thing that everyone points to say, well, that could slow them down. But Eddie Howe's already come out this week and said, my priority is the Premier League. So ultimately for him, he's not taking his eye off the ball. He knows that no matter what happens in the cup competitions, then he will have to make sure that the very minimum that Newcastle do this season is finish top four and finish in those Champions League places, because that will now become expected by the owners.
Top
and
five.
I'm not talking about Amanda, and I'm not talking about Miedad. I'm talking about PIF. For me personally, I genuinely feel he knows that as long as he finishes in the Champions League, he'll be okay. What happens in the Cups, John? Well, what happens in the Cups? Champions League, for me, be great to get out of the group. Whatever happens after that's a bonus. If you can get out of the group in the Champions League stage, which I don't think should be an issue unless we're in a group of death, I think our home form will get us through. I think war flags and the support that we have in the stadium will get us through. I'd love to have another run in the Carabao Cup. I'd love to get to the Carabao Cup final and this time go one better and win. FA Cup, of course, is my favourite. It's the favourite of the three cups that we're in. I do love the Champions League, but the FA Cup is very sentimental to me. We've been to Wembley in my lifetime in the FA Cup and never won. And I'd love to see us put that right, because it's the oldest, more fashionable cup for me. So, it's going to be interesting. But top four is what he has to aim for, John.
Absolutely. If you finish fifth as well, it'll be Champions League as well. That's why I went like that. Top five, Champions League. So top four will be brilliant as well. Jay, rumours has it if Kane sold Spurs will be in for Wilson, I would definitely not sell. What do you think, Steve?
Callum Wilson won't want to leave Newcastle United this season, not with the Champions League. He worked hard like everybody else did for Champions League football, so he will not want to leave and go to Tottenham this season. There's no doubt about that. I genuinely think Kane will stay at Tottenham. He's a Tottenham boy. He's a Tottenham lad. He's a supporter. He'll want to break Shearer's record. There's no doubt about that. It's one thing that he can do. But I genuinely think that Harry Kane will stay. Bayern Munich have come over. They've had meetings, but I think Levy would rather let him go for free in the summer. A lot depends on what Postecoglou does at Tottenham. Of course, it's a strange appointment. It really is. And strange owners do strange things. And I just genuinely think that's a weird appointment. I don't know how Spurs can get any better than they did last season with that kind of appointment. I just find it strange. I stand corrected if it's wrong. I always do, but I just genuinely think that that Spurs will struggle. It's a bit like Chelsea. Everyone's saying that Chelsea will be the team to watch this year. Liverpool will bounce back. What you've got to remember, John, is there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees that's going to happen. Liverpool have already got a few injuries in the midfield. They've lost the players that got them, the Premier League and the Champions League. More or less a different team now. And it didn't look like a happy camp. Chelsea are a team of individuals who suddenly believe that appointing Pochettino is going to change things. The problem is that they've still got the same owner behind the scenes who clearly doesn't understand the English Premier League and doesn't understand football and just wants to throw money at it constantly. That's if it's his money. And Spurs, I just think it's Levy has always been the problem at Spurs. So I can't see those three. I'm more concerned about Aston Villa. I genuinely think Aston Villa will be a threat. I think Manchester United will be better again this season, so they will be there or thereabouts. Arsenal will, of course, be up there, and Manchester City will be up there. Brighton have had to sell, as they always do, so they're going to struggle a bit, I think, more this season. They've still got good players coming through, but they've lost McAllister. Is Casado going to go? And then you've got the other teams who were in and around Brentford. Brentford who, ultimately are missing Ivan Toney, which is a big blow. Crystal Palace who, if they're not fighting relegation, they're chasing a European place down. There's no in between with Crystal Palace. They've lost Zaha. So, it's a different Premier League season this season. You can never look back at last season and go, well, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. It's brand new season. We're all starting from scratch. It's going to be an interesting season this year, John. That's for certain. But I do think Newcastle will hold their own.
I'm going to have to agree 100% because I'm looking forward to it. I mean, they can write us off as much as they want, but guess what? I'm happy being written off, Steve. I really do. But the bottom line is we are going to bounce back this season. I think you'll be okay. I really do. And hi to Alan. Evening, guys. Do you think we were lucky with injuries or more down to Howe's training?
Eddie Howe's training methods clearly are quite extreme at times. I mean, fitness wins fights is what they say in boxing, and I think that's the situation that you find with Eddie Howe. There's been a new clip released from the Amazon documentary today, which shows Eddie Howe's team talk, or partial team talk, about the Man United game, where Ten Hag had criticised Newcastle's game management and said slowed the game down. So he basically just says, go out there and give them a quick game, give them a fast game, or words to that effect. The one thing that's quite clear about Newcastle United under Eddie Howe is we are very, very fit, John, and we don't let our standards drop. And if you do let your standards drop, you find yourself on the sidelines. So, yeah, I genuinely think there's always got to be a little bit of luck with injuries, which was Alan's question. But I think a lot of it's down to the training, and I think when you look at how many injuries we got with the previous manager, Steve Bruce, there was very little training. Players came out and said there was very little training, and that itself can cause problems. So yeah, I think a lot of it's down to the way Eddie Howe runs the football club and him and his team, John. Yeah, absolutely. Keep those comments coming through, and we get to your comments as best we can. And Miley, hi to NUSS. Miley, potential 50 mil plus player, not to add pressure, but the way he moves the ball around effortlessly is class. Another one to add some bulk, and he will be a beast. Need to remember he is only 17 years of age. Yeah, you've got to treat him with kid gloves. And Eddie Howe will. He's showing you what he'll do with young talent coming through, and that is he'll give them an opportunity. And if they take that opportunity, then he will encourage it, and he will nurture them, and he'll bring them on. And Lewis Miley will find himself in exactly the same position as Elliot Anderson did last season. He finds himself in a position where he's spending more time with the first team, and that itself is an experience. Some people saying 17's too young, don't put too much pressure on him. But you know what? If you're good enough, you're old enough, and that's it. It's as simple as that. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And look at Wayne Rooney, look at Michael Owen, two goal scorers who came in as kids. Look at Alan Shearer, 16, 17 when he was banging the goals in at Southampton, scoring a hat-trick on his debut for Southampton. So ultimately, for me, if you are good enough, if you're good enough, you're old enough, John. It's as simple as that. Absolutely, totally agree. JK, thank you very much for coming a member as well. You'll be entered to a draw in September and take part to win £50 e-voucher you can spend at Newcastle United Club Shop. So thank you very much indeed, JK. Hi to Jackie Nixon. Hope you're good. Top 5 has to be a priority. Decent cup run and out of the group stage of the Champions League. That's in Jackie. So yeah, Jackie, great ambitions there. And let's hope we get top 4, top 5 next season as well. Just as better can Champions League. And I want to talk about the membership, Steve, as well. I mean, Kit Tough the other day, and because the ticket's going to cost between 44 quid and 74 quid, people are unhappy, things are going to be chucked in any seat. I'm just so glad our owners, okay, they admit they're going to make mistakes along the way, but what they've done yesterday, they came at us and said, look, we made a mistake, put a hand up, and
we listen to your fans, and we're going to do something about it. What a fantastic audience you got, Steve.
Listen, John, you know, those who overreact on certain issues on social media, word of advice, wait and see what happens. Don't overreact. Think about things. We can all make mistakes on social media. We can all put stuff out there which we shouldn't have put out. You know, criticism of a player, criticism of something that's going on at the club. This isn't the Mike Ashley regime anymore. This is a different regime. And we've also got to be allowed to be critical friends, John. We've got to be able to say what we feel. If we think something's wrong, we have to tell the club. There is no, you know, way of getting a direct line to, you know, those people who make the decisions. But there are ways that you can contact the club. Supporter services at nufc.co.uk is an email address. Email them. 9 times out of 10 so far for me, they've got back. You know, if I've had an issue or there's been a problem. The response was good, but they've made a few monumental mistakes with this, I think. And genuinely speaking, I don't think these workshops have benefited the process. I think the workshops now look more like talking shops where they've ticked the box, they've got the fans in, they've listened to what the fans have said, and then they've done what they were going to do anyway. And I think that was a mistake, and I think they've realised that this week. They still haven't rectified a lot of people's problems. We would have to do another 2 hours to list some of the messages that I've had this week from concerned supporters, upset supporters, angry supporters, confused supporters, people haven't got a clue what's going on. The club are spelling the whole thing out on their social media, on their website, but not everybody's computer savvy, not everybody's tech savvy. So, you know, there's people of a certain demographic and age who genuinely don't know how to log on, how to do this, how to do that. And I think they're creating a bit of a rod for their own back, if you want my honest opinion. At Sunderland last week, they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And one of my family members has been to Sunderland today. And as you approach the Stadium of Light, on one of the traffic signs, the digital traffic signs as you pull in, it basically saying, it's advising people to get to the ground early for their first game this weekend because they're expecting delays with the ticketing situation. Ooh. It's going to be the same at Newcastle. Now, I know they've got the Select Cup this weekend to try and get things right. That'll be a bit of a teething problem. Mm-hmm. They may get a few of the teething problems sorted now. But what I would do, John, or what I would have suggested they did, was phase this in. So this season, they should have allowed people printed off one last season ticket. One season ticket, if you're going to balance season tickets, but also bring in the digital option. So that way, everyone has to download it on the phone. And for the full season this season, you are told you've got your hard copy of your season ticket, but we are phasing it out next season. We advise you, if you've got a smartphone, to download it onto your phone and bring that to the match. You'll bring that to the match and you'll be able to use it, get used to it. Next season, we're phasing out season tickets. If they'd done that, that would have been great. Or they could have gone down the Durham Cricket route. Durham Cricket Club. If you go to Durham Cricket Club and if you're a member, your card gets updated every year on the system. So they don't have to send out a new season ticket.
Exactly.
You just go each year and you put your ticket on the turnstile and you're in. So I'm not being funny, but they've made this so difficult. They've upset so many people. And I don't understand why, after all the good work they're doing on the pitch, that they would make such a balls up off the pitch. I can probably hazard a guess, and it's because the people behind the scenes are either not, that there's not enough of them. Maybe there's some who are still there from the previous owners' time at the club. But there's just so many things wrong with it, John. Yes. And like I say, you could fill a 2-hour show. Coming out and apologising and changing things, the financial side of things, that was right. But I'm afraid there's a lot more to be done, and that's not going to be fixed overnight.
I just can't see it. I really just can't see it because a lot of people don't have their phones as well, so they have to go and use that. I think, look, at the end of the day, right, which how it goes, you mentioned teething problems as well. So if it gets it right at the cellar, this weekend, then and it goes plain sailing. Cool, that is fine. But it's not going to be easy plain sailing, in my opinion. And it is what it is, man. And we're going to have to see what comes out of that as well. Just a few comments as well on to quickly about the sellout as well. Hi to Dunil. Right idea would be to fears if the ticket changes. As Steve said, think that the audience has bitten the bullet on the back of the very successful season, knowing that demands will be very high. I'm going to have to agree there with Benny as well.
Problem is, John, as well, like, you know, this £37 membership, we don't know how many memberships have been sold, John. So there could be, let's say there's 100,000 memberships being sold. £37, it's financially, it's great for financial fair play and the money that's coming in, the revenue. But some people may never get a ticket and they pay £37 for nothing, John. You know,
yeah,
and that's a concern.
You know what you just said it there. It's a major concern. It's going to be people who's going to be fighting for it. Do you know what I mean? I heard a couple of days ago, Jaiho was a complete and utter BS saying that it's going to happen to season tickets in the future. I can tell you now that would never, ever, ever happen. A season ticket ballot would never, ever happen. Otherwise, there'd be absolutely, it's going to be a spot of bother. Do you know what I mean? But
I think a lot of people, you know, certainly the lads who do the Amigos, we all seem to think that they've rushed this too much. Instead of taking the time and phasing it in, they've just, for some reason, there's been a mass rush to do stuff, and I don't understand why. They could have genuinely taken the time and, you know, got this right. Somebody somewhere has made the wrong decisions, and you know, we may not get to the bottom of that, but the key is communication and rectify it, and everybody will be happy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Got another 10 more minutes to go just on the laps as well for the show. Alan Little and Jackie said, now we've got Liveamento. Who do you think should be next through the door? Jackie thinks we need a right back and maybe another striker. And Alan is just asking the same question, really.
Yeah, I think there'll be at least one more addition. The striker situation's interesting because you can't pick up a good striker, you know, for nothing. You know, maybe Yankuba Minde is somebody, if he does well at Feyenoord, may solve that problem without spending an absolute fortune. But Anthony Gordon showed in the summer that he can play through the middle. It's an option. Howe tends to play with one up front. Is he going to change his formation? I doubt it this season. I think he'll go with what he's got. But he'll also be expecting goals coming in from midfield. Tonali's very good on a set piece. Yeah. And Harvey Barnes has already proven goal scorer in the Premier League. If Miggy hits the same kind of form as he did last year, I genuinely don't think we'll be as reliant on centre forwards to score goals. So for me, personally, I think a striker will be the last on the priority list. I think another defender is genuinely something that Newcastle could try and bring in. They've let Ashby go on loan to Swansea, although it hasn't been officially confirmed. I think it's probably one of the worst kept secrets in football.
Yeah.
I think there'll be more outgoings as well in the next couple of weeks. They will still want to clear the decks. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but yeah, I genuinely feel ultimately that there'll be another incoming. I think it'll be a defensive one, John.
I think it's going to be a centre back as well. Right, centre back. I'll go with Jackie Nick as well. Jack didn't call her Jackie Nick. So there you go. I can see that's coming through the door. Joachim Anderson, I like it'll be Stephen Palace. That's what I like it's going to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many names being linked. I mean, Barry Hogan will be getting across his list in the next 24 hours. So it's probably up to about 215, I would imagine now. But yeah, Jackie Nicholson there saying someone to cover Shaw. I think you're right. But yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be another defensive signing, mate. I'm not sure who it will be. It'll be the person that you've heard the least about, or somebody who was on the radar earlier and then, you know, has disappeared. You know, disappeared off the radar.
Yeah. Absolutely. We go for some comments as well, and then go one more question quickly. I get the feeling that you just want to rip off the plaster and get everything over and done with and change. Everything that has changed, even slight seems to enrage half the fans. That's so my key suit. And remember, but see it's just being part of the club rather than expect too much in return. Obviously, no chance of away tickets last season. Onwards, unlike before, we were shy. And Jules said, thanks for the kind words, Steve. It means a lot. As chatters or mods, we're here because we love Newcastle and want to support our great channels. Thank you, Jules.
Thanks, Jules.
And from Kenny, hi to you, Kenny. Welcome to my channel, mate. Steve, the software that are using ties with the Google Wallet have the software providers put pressure on to get a deal with Newcastle now and not later on?
Good question,
Kenny.
It's a good question, that, Kenny. Possibly, possibly they have, but it's crazy. It's crazy to just get this kind of, they get this kind of reaction without thinking it through. I mean, look at the situation that, say George Mitchell has to go through. He went on, he has his season ticket, it's paid for. Then he went onto the system to try and download it into his wallet, and now they can't find him on the system. I mean, that kind of thing's happening on a regular basis. Those people who don't have a smartphone are being told that you've got to have to queue up at the ticket office on a match day to go and get a copy of get a ticket printed off at there. You can't print it off at home because they don't want you passing it to somebody else. So you've got to queue at the box office. How many people are going to be queuing at the box office in a match day who don't have a smartphone? Do they know the numbers? Do they know how many people are going to be doing that? I hope so, because otherwise that's going to be an absolute nightmare. And like I said, our neighbours down the road who get less crowds than us on a regular basis had massive queues outside the ground, to the point where they had to open the doors and just let people in because there was a crush potentially could have happened at Sunderland. So that's the situation we're in at the moment at Newcastle. Is it going to be as bad? Who knows? How many people are going to sell a cup? I've got no idea. The club seem to really pushing it, so I would imagine it hasn't sold as well as they thought it was going to. But Aston Villa, I would advise people to go to the ground early because it could be chaos.
Absolutely. And one last one as well from Jules. Sorry if you haven't discussed already, but Steve, how important is our growing overseas fan base watching likes of Mitch, Ira Lead, spreading the Newcastle word as great SC? That's from Jules.
It's a great thing to see. We've been very welcoming to people. Geordie's here, Geordie's there on a Wednesday night. It's got Stu in Bahrain. It's got Mitch in. It's got Mitch. Mitch in Dubai. It's got Al Walid in Saudi. It's got Kevin in America. So we do try and spin far and wide with different people. And from our perspective, it's great to see. I just hope that they can try and reward the away supporters and the supporters who live abroad a little bit more as we move forward. When we do get an increase on the capacity, put a little section aside for those kind of fans to be able to come and watch Newcastle United. It's very, very important, that, John, because we've got to accept as the club gets bigger, then our fan base will get bigger.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And one more question from me, Steve, before I know you got a scoop. Where do you think Newcastle's going to finish at the end of the season?
I think Newcastle will finish fourth. I think they'll get through the group stages in the Champions League, and I think they'll get to the quarterfinals. I think they'll get to the final of the Carabao Cup and win it, and I think they'll get knocked out of the FA Cup in the fourth round.
Okie dokie, Steve. Listen, it's been an honor having you on again. I do apologize for earlier on with the viewer problems as well, and at least we got it sorted out. We didn't stress, we didn't get flustered. It was just calm and manner as well. And where can we find you on your socials, Steve, for the people that don't know?
Just get yourself over to Steve Wraith on Twitter. That's the best place to find me. I'm often commenting on Newcastle United material on there. And get to our YouTube channel, Steve Wraith, at NUFC Matters on YouTube. You'll find all of our videos, all of our content there. And jump onto our website. We've got a lot of merchandise on there, nufcmatters.com.
Fantastic. The link's in the description as well, guys. And if you like my video, like what you watch, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment as well. We discussed Liveamento, the memberships as well, and the new season coming up as well. How do you think you're going to do this season at Newcastle United? I'm going to go 5th this season, and I could cut run Steve as well. Does that sound good?
Does, mate. Sounds good to me.
Fantastic. Listen, you got a scoop, and what you got coming up on your show tonight or tomorrow?
Well, we did a Champions League show tonight with an Arsenal fan, Gary Webster, who used to be on TV as he was in a wonderful ITV series called Minder. But tomorrow night, 5 o'clock till 7 o'clock, the three amigos, me, Steve Hasty, and Mitch will be putting the work to rights on Newcastle United. So please subscribe to our channel, and we will see you there tomorrow night, 5 o'clock.
Thanks very much indeed. And make sure you watch this channel tomorrow. I'll be back for the next one. And thank you so much for John King for being the latest subscriber. And we've got Broken Flask as well. Good show, guys. Thank you, Broken Flask. Make sure you subscribe as well, mate. And Steve, thank you very much for coming on. And we've got to get you back again soon. And
yeah, I'll get you back on mine as well, John. We'll do another collab very soon, mate. Look forward to getting you on. We'll get you on the Champions League show and you can give us your views.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to that, Steve. Thank you so much. Top man.
Take care, mate.
You too, boss. See you.